It's little wonder that Gilberto Gil, Brazil's Minister of Culture, has been dubbed its Minister of Cool. For more than 40 years, Gil has been one of Brazil's most famous musicians. Tonight, he's going to perform in the Carnival Parade in his hometown of Salvador.
Difícil distinguir quem. Todas têm rostinho assim, narizinho afilado, todo mundo igual. Frescobol.
Não sei o que falar. É muito emocionante a gente conhecer uma pessoa que é tão importante para a história da música, a história do Brasil, entendeu? Que já foi tão importante, que é tão importante, sabe? Mudou tanta coisa, que fez tanta coisa.
Because Gilberto Gil fused samba, salsa and bossa nova with rock and folk, he's revered today as one of the pioneers of Brazilian music. But to millions of Brazilians, Gil is much more than just a fabulous musician. A lifelong social activist, he's always stood up to those in power. And through years of dictatorship, his courageous stand has earned him enormous respect and affection.
I'm a black man, a well-succeeded black man in a country where black people fight hard to succeed. This is one point. I mean, I'm an artist, you know, traditionally considered non-usable for you know, official and serious purposes, you know.
A tristeza é senhora.
Gil might be an unconventional choice for minister, but he was handpicked by Brazil's new president. Late last year, Brazilians voted in their first left-wing government for more than 4 decades. President Lula da Silva is a former trade unionist and represents for millions the possibility of a more egalitarian Brazil.
Ministro de Estado da Cultura, Senhor Gilberto Passos Gil Moreira.
Lula is a big fan of Gil's and began his first day in office with a serenade from his new minister.
A barra de viver, mas se Deus quiser, tudo vai dar pé.
Gil is only the second black minister in Brazil's history. The first was footballer Pelé. His appointment was a sign of Lula's determination to shake up Brazil's establishment.
Viva nossa terra, viva o samba, viva a música, viva a arte popular deste país.
Gil wasn't a complete political novice. He was Secretary for Culture in Salvador in 1987 and spent 4 years on the city council after that. He says Lula chose him precisely because of his activism.
We had a good conversation and he told me, I think that you could be a good minister for our purposes. We have good expectations about you being minister. And I think that if you go there and you do as positively and as committed as you do in your musical job, we're going to be pleased.
This morning, Gil is inspecting renovations at the Museum of History in Rio.
Aí nós preparamos como Ela mora aqui no Rio? O tapete vermelho é coisa do pessoal, não vai ter não. E colocamos aqui, olha, seu tapete.
Gil is responsible for all aspects of culture in Brazil, but his real goal is to expand the idea of what culture is and to make it more accessible to the millions who would never visit a museum.
There is one priority: to convince government and society that culture is more and more a strategic tool for progress, for development, for power. Grandeza além de não preciso mais.
As a black man in a country with endemic racism, Gil is uniquely placed to redefine Brazil's cultural heritage. This afternoon, he's recording with Maria Luís from Cape Verde, the former Portuguese colony from which African slaves were collected and sent to Brazil.
E em Cabo Verde, tudo que está acontecendo com o Lula, com o Gilberto Gil, o pessoal mexeu muito com a gente, porque eles começaram a dizer, peraí, a utopia ela é possível, está ao nosso alcance. Porque um país pequeno, pobre, sempre viram os nossos ídolos lá no céu, né? É intocável e não temos jeito de se aproximar. E antigamente não tinha mesmo. Porque a relação com os portugueses é uma relação muito complexa, muito complicada. E cometeram erros.
Para ficar mais fácil pensar no Brasil.
É mais gostoso.
É mais gostoso, mais legítimo.
Você sabe que o desejo de todos virem ao Brasil. Gil, deixa eu te falar uma coisa. Eu fico fazendo pontes, né?
Managing a ministry and a musical career, the expectations of Gil are enormous. It's a huge task for the 61-year-old.
Você tem que ser mesmo ali, tem que viajar, tem que estar, reunir, pensar, dar entrevista. Isso
e se vacilar, vem a oposição sistemática, agora sim, né? Não é?
Tá,
aquela oposição está sempre em cima, né?
Tá aí.
Não,
esperando qualquer minuto para...
Show pra você agora deve ser assim um orgasmo, né? Porque
é bom.
Já era bom antes, mas agora sim.
Agora como é mais raro,
Show é férias, né?
Para amar uma mulher, eu quero ter uma mulher. Ai, você bem pode ser. Me crete é mulher para amar.
Gil was born into a middle-class family near the city of Salvador in northeastern Brazil in 1942. Taking up the accordion as a child, he developed an extraordinary talent that soon got him noticed. After hearing legendary singer and guitarist João Gilberto on the radio, he abandoned his university studies and bought a guitar.
Para lembrar minha meninança. Bonito esse verso. Para lembrar minha meninança. Meninança.
É uma coisa assim.
O rei da confusão. Um trabalhava na feira, outro na construção.
Gil's initial success on radio and television coincided with a military coup in 1964. The new dictatorship dismantled Brazil's democratic institutions and tightly controlled the press. Meanwhile, Gil was starting to turn music on its head. In 1968, Gil, along with Caetano Veloso, Maria Bethânia and Gal Costa, shocked Brazil by creating a radical musical movement, Tropicalia. The Tropicalistas were the first to open up traditional Brazilian folk music to the influences of pop and rock, philosophy and politics.
We were directly or indirectly supporting rebellion of the youth against the traditional family values, against the traditional political values, and that sort of thing. I mean, we represented the youth movement in Brazil at that time, and that was already dangerous for a dictatorial regime.
Atenção, ao dobrar uma esquina, uma alegria. Atenção, menina.
The Tropicalistas laced their sweet pop tunes with oblique but potent lyrics. Under an increasingly repressive dictatorship, it was the only way left to communicate.
Atenção, tudo é perigoso, tudo é divino, maravilhoso. Atenção para o refrão, uau, é preciso estar atento e forte. Não temos tempo de temer a morte.
And we were sort of asking attention, asking people, especially the youngs, to pay attention to violence, to state violence and to suppression of freedom, suppression of liberty of speech.
Atenção para as janelas no alto, atenção ao pisar o asfalto, mangue, atenção para o sangue sobre o chão.
In December 1968, Gil and Veloso were arrested by the military regime. After 2 months without charge and 4 months under house arrest, forbidden to publicly perform, they were told to leave Brazil. They were lucky. Many of their colleagues were tortured or disappeared forever. Remarkably, a sympathetic army officer allowed Gil and Veloso to perform a concert to raise money for their families. This final gig was the first performance of what would become one of Gil's most beloved sambas, Aquele Abraço.
I sang that song, and the response was incredible, and it was a farewell song. I was saying, goodbye, I'm leaving. I don't know for how long. And at that time, I mean, we had to consider even the possibility of going away forever.
Aquele abraço pra você que me esqueceu. Aquele abraço, alô Rio de Janeiro. Aquele abraço, todo o povo brasileiro. Aquele abraço, olha o breque. O Rio de Janeiro continua.
Such were the restrictions on the press, many Brazilians were never quite sure of where 2 of their most popular performers had suddenly disappeared to. Gil and Veloso spent 2 years exiled in London, jamming with Pink Floyd, Rod Stewart and Jimi Hendrix, as well as experimenting with drugs.
Those were the times of LSD and state of mind changers, And that was cool for a while, it was okay. It was the zeitgeist of the time, And then the dream was over, as Lennon put very well.
A tristeza é senhora desde que o samba é samba.
So beautiful.
How is it that you came back from exile? Why did they allow you to come back?
Why they did?
Yeah.
They said, okay, now it's okay for you to be back, and it's quite enough, and we have controlled everything. And even they start feeling it was time to initiate a little opening process,
After returning to Brazil, Gil became a prominent spokesperson for the country's black consciousness movement. He also recorded more than 50 albums and constantly toured the world, building up an impressive fan club along the way.
Secretary General Kofi Annan, where are you? Come on stage, please.
Late last year, Gil was invited to perform a special concert at the United Nations. to honour the 24 victims of the Baghdad attack on the UN, including fellow Brazilian Sergio de Mello. The memorial concert summed up Gil, using music to celebrate rather than mourn, with a little bit of mischief thrown in for good measure.
Secretary General Kofi Annan on congas.
Now Gil is on his way to officially open Carnival in Salvador, part of the world's biggest party.
Yeah, and the police, where is the police? He is asking the police to come and join the party. Very interesting.
And to serve, to protect.
To serve and to protect. And to enjoy and party also.
This is the one time of year that all Brazilians come together. Perhaps the only other symbol of such unity is Gil himself.
Ele é uma pessoa linda, maravilhosa. Agora que ele é ministro, pra mim, que eu sou fã dele, redobrou mais ainda. Ele é uma pessoa excelente, ele é nobre. Ele é rico de pureza e é bom de pureza também. Por isso eu amo Gil. Amo ele de verdade. Ele é um amor, por isso eu agarrei ele e vou dar 1000 beijos nele hoje.
It's gonna be tight.
Gil has come full circle. Once agitating from the fringe, he's now helping to run the establishment. But he doesn't see any contradiction.
I've been always part of the establishment. There is nothing but the establishment. It's a dialogue, it's constant dialogue between things that are supposedly out of the system and the system itself.
Some Brazilians are worried about what happens when activists assume power. Although the new left-wing government has only been in office for 6 months, there are already concerns that the president's Workers' Party is forgetting its roots. But it would appear that Gil's popularity is undented.